Welcome, welcome. Season 4, Episode 6 of the Breaking Chains podcast. Today we're going to talk about navigating relationships. What do you got for me?
The most important thing in all relationships is communicating, right?
Agreed.
So when we were talking about this, speaking about, okay, how do we get better? What's like the number one thing in life that helps us get better?
What is it?
Relationships. Well, you could only gauge how well you have become enlightened or, more high frequency, high vibe when you're around other people and having to deal with other people. If you go sit alone on a mountain or in a dark room and meditate and feel so at peace with life and the world, and then the minute you're around people, you're like, fuck off. Like, I hate everybody. People suck. It's not the world, it's people. How far have you come? You can't gauge yourself by meditating and sitting in peace. That's good for you to recenter, find your ground.
Agreed.
Know how peace feels, understand it, and bring that back into the world.
Yes.
But being a I hate people, the world sucks kind of person, and thinking, oh, I've come so far.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So it's all about relationships and how we deal with them.
Well, I think one of the biggest signs of growth in general is actually being involved in relationships, because something that triggered you, let's say a month ago, you see it come, life gives you a chance for it to come back around, and you can acknowledge from from an awareness perspective, like, wow, that same thing happened and I didn't react the same way. That's growth.
But the only way you can do that is if you are the watcher. If you are being aware of your actions and your reactions, right? So it comes from a point of watching first. So this whole journey of, how do I become more conscious? How do I better myself and become aware of how to get better? The first step is not reading a book, how to get better, and going, taking these steps. It's first looking at what you do now. So not trying to change anything. You've said this before. Just watch yourself. Be okay. Oh, shoot, I do that.
Yeah.
They say I do that, but I do that. I thought I didn't do that. Oh, snap. Well, that's true.
I got to give you an example, and not to go off topic. I think it's on topic, but so yesterday,
I don't know.
My sister works for us.
Oh, there.
My sister works
Lil
for us.
T, love her.
And, yesterday we didn't have the easiest of conversations. But like I said to her straight up, I said, there are moments when you really piss me off. Like, you make me angry. And I own that. I was like, I don't know why, but there's just some times that you make me so angry. And it was over, I let her know. I didn't run from the fact that she does piss me off at times. But I also told her, I was like, there's also times at night when I'm talking to her at 11 o'clock at night about some new idea and she's answering me back. And I'm so grateful and thankful that she's on this team and how much of an asset she is and how much she brings to the table. And I told her both of those, right? There was no one answer. I was like, at one end, I love you so much and I'm so grateful for all you do. And on the other end, you make me so angry.
It's like a child.
But I was accepting and taking ownership of both of those feelings.
Yeah.
So that I could start to go deeper in myself and say, why? What is it about her that triggers me so much? And I'm not saying that I have an answer, but I'm saying that I actually owned that straight to her face. Hey, let's talk about this. And I want to let you know, this is actually how you make me feel. And that's something that I got to work on in myself. And it was so funny because the way that she accepted that was very graciously. She could accept that I was telling her, I don't know why you make me angry, but you do. And I'm still working through myself on why that's the case. So it's just a quick example of like communication, navigating relationships, and being open and not being scared of your feelings and owning your feelings and trying to better understand your feelings and understand maybe what has to happen next for you to, uncover some things about yourself.
I think sometimes when you do that, you help the other person understand their own feelings, especially when you put the two polar opposite ends. Like, you make me angry and I want to rip your head off. I love you and you actually have so much so much to give and bring to the table, and there's so much to you. There's all this in between.
Yeah.
It's not you are this or you are this. It's you can be everything. And sometimes somebody hearing that, it helps them. Like, oh, I can be both and I can choose too.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? Like one of my biggest lessons came from Kobe. Because you see how it's polar opposites, right? Like,
yeah, like I said, like
before
children, like
in my life, I couldn't be on the opposite. There had to be one thing. It had to be one thing. Instead,
what do you mean by that?
Meaning like, you're either strong or you're strong. Strong means you don't cry. Strong means this, there's like this one, like this is what you think being strong means. And so it was funny, like as I watched Kobe growing up, like there's one moment where he's laughing and he's hysterical. There's the next moment where he's crying and he's so sad. The next moment he's raging and he's got veins coming out of his neck because he's yelling at something. Then
one moment he's so sweet, and then one moment he's like poking Kaya in the back.
And then the next moment he's like happy and trying to give you a hug, like, "Mommy, I love you so much." And when I looked at him, I was like, I think that's what life is supposed to be like for all of us, is actually embracing every moment. And I actually did a video with Tyler not too long ago when we did our one-on-ones. And I said, like, on my ride home, or my ride from home to dropping the kids off to getting to work, I went through this roller coaster of emotions, like anything from like feeling like unstoppable to like having a tear come through from some song, and then being grateful for life. And the old me couldn't ride that wave of emotions during that 1 hour trip. But the new me kind of sits in those emotions and appreciates them as they come around, because it's like clouds, like they come through and then next thing you know, they're gone. And that's why I think the awareness and being the watcher, as you say, is so important, because you're literally observing life itself kind of run through you.
Yeah. And I like what you said, like the old me and the new me, because like every day we get a chance to renew ourselves. It's like, it's a renewal of life. And you get to kill who everyone thinks you were and who you thought you were. Like, and you get to choose to be a different person with how you communicate, right? Like there can be this old Chastity that would say something and everybody could keep reiterating that and reinforcing that pattern. Like, Chastity, you say things that are so unnecessary. You say things and they hurt people. And you don't know how to like hold your tongue. You don't know. And I could be like, well, yeah, that's just the way I am. That's just the way I am. And I could get lost in that. Like, yeah, that's just the way I am. That's what I do. And or I can watch myself and be like, oh, snap, I could probably not say that.
Yeah.
And feel better about myself and feel better about and it would be much nicer. The world would be a better place maybe, because that actually didn't serve anyone. It didn't help anyone get better.
Yeah.
It didn't make anyone do anything but get defensive or get angry. And like everything in this world is playing out its purpose, right? Everything up until this moment needed to happen for you to make the next step. That's your path. So it's not that we've done anything wrong in our past and who that person was. It's like we were this person to get to the next level.
Correct.
To upgrade from here. So if you can recognize that it's a time in your life to be like, okay, this is no longer serving me. There's no reason for me to be yelling all the time and screaming and losing my mind. What can I do to find some center in my life? How can I get better? How can I not snap all the time? How do I not get defensive? It's watching.
Yeah.
And then learning, like you said, how to communicate that. Like, if every time you walk in the door and I want to yell at you and scream at you or like get all pissed off, what about that triggering event? What is it really? Maybe I need to talk to you about something that's bothering me. That's communicating.
Of course.
Right? Like, it really makes me upset when not, yo, you always do this and this is why, right? It's, I am actually feeling hurt by this. Take it or leave it, right?
I always think that in relationships, or at least in the communication style, there's always like a refractory period where like a stimulus comes to you and you're about to react. But if you just pause, there's this period I'm going to call a refractory period where it's like you have a choice right now. In this eternal now, you have a choice to either respond back or to react back. And I think that's where the free will power comes from, is like, is this comment that I'm about to make going to bring more value to this conversation, or is it not?
Right.
And that's one thing that I've been able to catch myself many times. Like, I'm about to say something, I'm like, literally, I can picture, within a split second, I can picture the whole scenario, what's about to happen after I make that comment. And I'm like, nah, let's not go there.
You know, it's funny you say that, because it just brought me to what Kobe, our 5-year-old, he was asking me, well, he was telling me that God tells him to do things. And I don't know if I asked him or he asked me. I think I asked him, I was like, how do you know it's God telling you? He's like, because I heard him. And I had to, this was like a moment, right? Like a teaching moment. I was like, how do you know if God's talking to you, right? And I was like, this is what came to me. You know it's God, and I said this to him, if it's loving, if it's kind, if it helps make a situation better, if you're doing something from your heart, that's how you know it's God talking to you. So if it's like that consciousness in a conversation, like you just said, is this actually going to improve? Do I want the goal? Is the goal right now for us to actually solve this and get through it? Or is it for me to be right?
Or prove a point, yeah.
But what is proving a point?
Being right, yeah.
And proving a point, like sometimes my point is you suck. Yeah. Do I want that to be the truth? Do I want a partner that sucks? Do I want a husband that doesn't show up? Yeah. So is my purpose here in this conversation to get better with you and to actually pull you to a place where, like, okay, how do we work through this? How do we get to a point where we're both winning together? As opposed to, I win, I'm right, you're wrong, haha, you suck.
Yeah, of course.
Because where does that get us in a relationship?
It's got to be we. It's got to be we.
Yeah.
In every relationship, it's got to be we.
And a lot of this, we have on here raising frequency and vibrations, right? Well, we're just energetic beings. And in terms of relationships, we only attract, really, at the rate of vibration that we can hold. Do you agree or disagree?
What do you mean by that?
So if I'm an energetic being and you're an energetic being, say we're both a certain voltage.
Yeah.
You could only plug into me if it's a fit, right? Like if our voltage matches, like if our frequency is not the same, I think we've talked about this actually in an episode. You would just not be here in my realm. That's what I believe. Like, I feel like it wouldn't work because we wouldn't even be able to have a conversation. It just would not work. I agree with what you're saying. I just think that there's also certain people that they highlight elements of your vibration or frequency that you're still working through. Right. And I don't think a vibration is like, I'm here.
No. I think
it's like this. Like, it's a vibration. It's vibration.
It's like a radio station.
Yes. It's just a certain tuning.
Yeah. Like you're tuning into this radio station and on this station, it plays this music. Right. So it doesn't mean like 97.1 doesn't mean it's different than Z100.
It's better. Right.
It's just a different
tune, different
experience.
Yeah.
Right. So we're experiencing different things and each person brings that. But raising frequency and vibration, I think, is is key if you want to internally, though, before externally starts to change.
But the only way to do it is internally. You can't go to the power station and be like, you can't go to Z100 and be like, yo, can you start playing Hot 97?
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that. You could only change it from inside your vehicle. Where are you dialing into?
Correct.
Right? So what is it, at what capacity can you handle a switch in tuning though? Right? Because if you don't have an intention behind what station, you're just gonna hear it's just gonna be fuzzy, right? Because you're not actually trying to tune into anything. It's just like everything is noise.
I think you said something. You talk about the watcher and the observer or awareness itself. I think the difference is like when you start to become comfortable or aware of the observer or the witness, you start living more intentionally.
Right.
So like it just changes everything, because you can even then ask your questions like, man, why does this friend draw me in? Why does this drama draw me in? Why do I like being angry? And sometimes, you know what, like being angry, like I've been angry in my life for a long time, many times, and I didn't even know why I was angry. But going through my journey, I also realized how uncomfortable it was being happy.
To not be angry because you're just so used to being angry.
So
I'm
like sitting there in meditation and I'm like, just, man, I'm feeling really happy, but this is uncomfortable. Right? And you're just sitting there. And I mean, I'm happy at times, but like there's times when like my mind is just going and I'm just like, I feel really happy now. And that was a little uncomfortable because, and I don't want to say the word angry. I want to say like focused or like needing, like I gotta go.
Sometimes it's anger, it's rage.
It's like fight or flight.
It reminds me of that one time when Kobe, this is like my favorite story ever, when you were yelling at him in the tub and he kept like making smart ass remarks. You're like, all right, Kobe, all right. You want to keep being smart? Keep being smart. And he just looks at you, he's like, keep being angry. And it's just the funniest thing to me because you couldn't be angry anymore.
I couldn't.
Like,
I laughed. I was like, that was a good one.
But like, it's like you don't even realize that like you're doing something. Just as like he's not conscious enough to know that like I'm doing this thing, but he was conscious enough to see what you're doing and like you're just angry. Right?
And that's the thing is like you can't see, sometimes you're unwilling to see the other person. But when somebody else is triggering you, there's something about their frequency that is like triggering that frequency, that same frequency of that same thing in you.
That's what I meant, where you will not get a partner or relationship that is not tuning into the same station, whether it's one point of the day or another, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe sometimes you can deal with a certain friend, sometimes you can't. And I think that has a lot to do with the rate of vibration that you could handle it, right? So like I'm thinking of, like when you're talking about like a trigger, like you wouldn't get triggered if you were like high vibes. And there's a difference between pretending that something doesn't trigger you. Like we've noticed that in this room, right?
Of course.
Like we've noticed, like I can go through and be like, all right, F you, I'll still have this conversation, but you could feel it. You can feel that somebody's triggered. But that means it's the same vibe. If I was able to trigger you, there's something in my tuning that's tapping into yours.
100%.
And then you're just bouncing it back.
And you know what the simple thing is just, which is the hardest part? Saying, wow.
I'm triggered.
I'm triggered. And there's something about this connection or this situation that I have to look at. Mm-hmm. Instead, people want to say, oh, it's not me. It's not me. It's not me. It's that person. It's that person. But the moment that you can actually say, I'm not sure what's going on right now, but I feel triggered by this person. There's got to be something. Let me look deeper into this in a compassionate place for myself, or a compassionate space for myself.
It's funny you're saying that, because we've learned in this day in society, we're like, oh, trigger, like I'm triggered, right? It's like this trigger society that you can't do anything because you have to tiptoe to not trigger people. What's funny is when you're triggered, it's not the people, it's you. You have to do the work. The world cannot do the work for you to not be triggered. You have to do the work to not be triggered.
Agreed.
Right? So like you can't get mad at the world for existing. You're in this world, you're part of it. What you can do is say, how can I adapt? How can I overcome this world?
So it's almost like the world is a mirror for your frequency and vibration currently, but it's a mirror helping you observe the things in you that you can't see.
Right.
So there's things that you're not able to process or perceive inside yourself. So the world brings somebody in front of you so that you can observe them as a mirror for what you can't see inside yourself.
Especially triggers. Like if something really bothers you about a person, I think the best thing to do is be like, why does this bother me? Why does this person annoy me?
But to also appreciate the feeling that you are annoyed and you are triggered.
And
feel
accept it.
Accept
Own it, right?
Yeah.
And then be like, when you go through it, and I've noticed this, when I'm triggered by people or annoyed by somebody, there is something so like me in them that it's unreal. Like, I want to say, like, okay, not everyone, but like a lot of times when I'm like, ooh, why does this bother me? A lot of times it's because like it reminds me of something I do that's cringeworthy. Yeah. Like to me, like, and it's only cringeworthy because like I haven't accepted it or embraced it in myself. Like I haven't just loved that piece of me that just needs to be accepted.
Of course. Sometimes
when you accept a piece of yourself, it goes away.
All the energy that you've had suppressing it is gone.
Dissipated.
Yeah. Because you've shown it love. It's just a piece of you that has wanted attention for all the years that you looked away from it.
What do you think about frequency and vibration and religion? In terms of, so let's say like a Christian is watching this and they're like, talking about frequency and vibration is like witchcraft. Like it's not godlike. What would you say to that? Like that's like, it's not real. Only God is energy.
Is this like if they said it to me, am I trying to have a conversation with them, or I'm just like, okay.
What do you think? Like, how does it go hand in hand? How do you bring God into frequency and vibration?
Well, first of all, God is not a person. So number one, it's got to be energy, right? The only problem is humans like to personalize. Is that how you say it?
Personify.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
People like to personify the unknown instead of being open in the unknown.
Well, in the Bible, it says we're made in God's image. So maybe that's what confuses people.
What do you mean?
If you are made in God's image.
But still God is personified. Right? So there had to be Jesus to personify God. Right? So, but what makes God a person? What makes God what? It's just that people need to put God in a box.
Yahweh.
But God can't be put in a box because God is everything. So what is everything? Energy. What is energy? Frequency and vibration. It's waves. You can even look at quantum physics, right? So, I mean, it's not really a conversation. And I don't look to make anybody think any differently. Everybody's free to choose and think what they want.
I mean, I have a lot of Christian friends. I go to Christian church. I read the Bible every day.
But it's funny, like we can go to Christian church. Like we just went to a church.
Yeah.
And I'm vibing with them because of the messages. I just don't need another label on me.
Okay.
I don't need to be like, hey, I'm Christian, or hey, I'm Jewish, or hey, I don't need that to feel fulfilled
very
inside
interesting.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, he gave an incredible, like the last time we went, he gave an incredible speech. And I thought it really resonated with my heart.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be all the other stuff in order to hear the words and embrace them.
Yeah.
And I feel like people feel like they need to be something in order to accept that. I can go read a book on Buddhism. I can go read a Christian book. I can read the teachings of Jesus. I could go to the Upanishads or Hinduism, and I'm like, it's all the same to me. It's all like, wow.
There could be a very similar message.
What an incredible message. I've seen this message before in this other religion.
And then there's other texts that decipher the parables, because they are parables. Like they're not in plain writing. You have to decrypt them. Yeah. Decrypt. They have to be deciphered. And there's people that decipher them and say, it was not even people. If you really decipher these and understand what they're trying to say, like the pastor that we went to, his message was on David and Goliath. Yeah. And he's talking about the guy herding the sheep, and he's actually taking down lions, wolves, and tigers, right? And bears back there while he's herding the sheep. He's protecting them, so he's getting ready for war while not being at war. And he took the giant down. If you think about that story, though, sometimes that giant is a story in our head.
Of course.
That's the beast. And it's just one little positive thought or energetic intention towards taking that monster down, right? Every day that monster, that giant can be like, yo, I'm here, I'm back with the business. You ready? You want some? And you'd be like, not today, Satan.
Yeah.
And you could take that giant down with just a small, direct intention of what you want. And I think that it's very important, like, to go through this life knowing that as a human, no matter what, like, you can't do it all. We were not meant to do it all. For me, I think we were meant to lean on something greater.
Yeah.
And that surrendering is to God.
And I also think that as your frequency raises,
Yeah.
because my belief is that you are already it. There's actually nothing for us to do in terms of, there is nothing outside of us that we need to bring inside of us in order to be who we're supposed to be. What we need to do is more understand what we're not, because we've been conditioned. So instead of looking at it as like, oh man, you need to be more spiritual, the fact is you are actually already perfectly spiritual. Instead, you have to remove all the other conditioning elements that you have to that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a different way of looking at it. People feel broken, like, I need to add all this to me. Instead, no, you need to let go of your habitual patterns and conditioning.
I need this therapy and this thing and this thing. Now I need to add cold. Like, we do this. Like, we add things in our lives.
And it's been a process for us. Like,
right. But like, it's also like, we don't need it. I don't need to do a cold plunge every day to know I'm okay.
Of course.
I don't need, you can enhance your life as a human being. And in fact, I had a really weird thought the other night. Kobe was watching, I put Bible stories on for him to go to bed. So he's like asking me all these questions about God and everything. And it's kind of funny. But in the Bible, it said Noah was like hundreds of years old. And Kobe's like, how is anybody that old? And he's asking me these questions. And when you read the Bible more, you'll see that a lot of them are hundreds of years old. And we don't talk about this.
Yeah.
But so that's one of the things, a big thing, that to me is big, that we don't talk about in the Bible, right? Like, if this is real and they were human and we're using these real human stories to base our lives off of, why do we not take that literal? Why do we not believe that we could actually live hundreds of years?
Because we've been conditioned to believe that way.
We've been conditioned that, 75 is your max if you're lucky.
Even if you think about it. Statistics, 90, right? Like, happy birthday every year. What do you feel like? I'm getting older.
We just ingrain this. By 30, I'm going to start to look old. And then when somebody says, wow, you look good for 30, you're like, oh yeah, I do. I guess I'm going to start looking old in 5 years, right? We start believing that we're going to be going somewhere. Oh, just wait till you're 40. When you get out of bed, it's not going to be the same. You're just waiting for that 40th birthday to not feel the same. This has a lot to do with our vibration, what we're allowing in.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're tuning into where you know you want to go.
Agreed. And I think that's the process of like where you are at is free. It's more being willing to ask questions of the unknown. And, it's like you have to kind of seem a little crazy.
Yeah. To bring that back.
And not fit in.
To bring that all back to relationships, though, sometimes like being in relationships, you feel a little crazy because in a relationship, I'm sure you felt like this with me, like you can feel very alone and not understood. But like as you've learned and I've learned many times, it's not for you to understand me or for me to understand you.
Yeah.
It's for us to understand ourselves.
Agreed.
And our own intentions. Like if my intention is pure right now, then I know we'll be okay. If I let the enemy in, the devil in of those words in my head, that to me is like, it lives here.
Yeah.
If I allow that like malintention, manipulation, and disruption, then that's going to have victory over, all right, we're going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think relationships are so vital for us showing our own selves what we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that hit me was like, why is this person doing this? And now I'm like, oh, that's where I'm at. That's where my frequency, that's where my self-worth is. That's where my self-love is. That's where my self-confidence is, this and that. And as you start to look at those and embrace all of those things and you work on it, you realize like the whole world around you actually does change. It's literally a reflection of who you are. And I think relationships are here to show us exactly that.
Yeah. And what's funny is like, I think as you grow and evolve and like, as you become more aware of what's going on, you're like, okay, I could sit with this. Okay. I'm here. I understand. Two things happen. It's twofold. You feel more supported by the universe every step of the way.
You don't feel alone.
You feel like, okay, yo, this is crazy. I know I feel crazy, but I know you got me, God. I know it because you always did, right? Like I always got through the hardest moments of my life. I got through 100% of the hardest moments of my life. Second fold, the challenges get more challenging. Yeah. Like when you're sitting, like you know that you're doing inner work when you're sitting on a problem and you're not like, oh, poor me, but you want to go there, but you're like, I'm not allowed to go there. Like, I'm not allowed to turn into a victim right now, but like, I know I got to work through this. I don't know how. And you turn to other people and you could talk about it. It's not like you have to go through it alone, but that's the thing. Like, you will feel more supported and you will feel more challenged as you grow.
But you also feel more, I agree with you. You'll feel more challenged, but challenged in a more supported way. Because you now understand that whatever's happening to you is literally here to help you grow and evolve into the person you were supposed to be. Like, I have a challenge right now. I'm like, oh. And then right away, I like come back and I'm like, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Oh, yeah. And
it's just like, but now
out.
it's like instantaneous. Like, what am I going to, before, like, oh my God, it was, this happened, this happened. Now it's like, man. All right, God, like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here, but I'm watching, I'm observing. I'm going to sit with this right now. And just that alone allows solutions to come into place.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we're adults. For me, I can speak for myself. It feels like I'm an adult, but back with like a kid-like curiosity of like, man, I wonder what this means.
Yeah.
And I'm in the present moment trying to be like, I'm here right now. And I'm just so grateful to be there. Yeah. And I hope that, Because it changes what life means. It seems like life is a real story now.
That just reminded me of, I feel like the people, this is funny, that do the most childish things, like in terms of like really? You know, I hear this a lot. I'm a grown ass adult. I'm grown. I make my own decisions. I'm grown, right? But like when you see really like chill, enlightened, like really lighthearted, loving people, it's like they have a childlike presence. Like it's just like a pureness, like an innocence.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I really want to be around this person. They feel so light and like I could play with them and have fun. And it's like, I don't want to deal with grown-ups.
Yeah.
Like grown people are not, like I feel like when we were children, we're looking at adults like, wow, I wonder what it's like to be a grown-up, right? Like they're adults, they know everything. And then you get to sit at the table with them and you're like, what the fuck? What is happening? Like, you guys are crazy.
Agreed.
What have you done to me? And like, you love them, right?
But I still think it's
you love them anyway, but it's so funny. Yeah.
I still think though that it's people navigating their emotions and not being scared of them.
Yeah.
Like even now, man, like I raise my voice, like I get angry, I get pissed, like, but I'm watching it. I'm watching it all and I'm asking myself questions. And as I do that, there's less times that I'm upset. There's more times I'm in the present moment. But life is life. And like, I'm intrigued by who I was destined to be.
And I think there's this part. I think that anytime you're going through this process of journeying and raising your vibration, if you want to levitate out of this world, I think you have the ability to do that. But when you're ready to stop being human, then you will no longer be human.
Yeah.
You won't get this experience. So I think what happens in life is we are constantly humbled and returned back to, hey, remember, you're human.
Of course.
Got him. Like when you're ready to die or, you know, leave your body and no longer be human, you won't be here anymore to be human. But while we're here in this human form, we're here to have a human experience, and we have to remember that.
Exactly. So to be okay with it all, definitely with the growing process, you gotta be, that's what I've learned. I gotta be okay.
Yeah.
I gotta be, it's like loving awareness.
Loving awareness. I am loving awareness.
I love all that happens.
Yeah. So I think the number one thing, if I were to give like one, sum it up in terms of navigating relationships, we didn't even talk about this, but I think it's learning how to listen. Like truly listening not only to the person outside, but learning how to listen to your inner voice that wants to say something constantly. Like listening to that too. Like, do I actually like that? Am I enjoying this conversation in my head?
Yeah.
Like just learning how to listen to it all.
I got two things. One thing is ask yourself the question, am I bringing value to this conversation or this experience? Number two is to take advantage of that refractory period. When you get triggered, instead of reacting from a habitual wounded pattern, what to do is pause and respond.
Oh, and my second one was right in the same point. In that refractory period, that same question, but different. What do I actually want as the outcome?
Correct.
What outcome do I want in this relationship? And even sometimes the ego is so cunning, it'll come in there. Like, man, fuck that person. Like, you don't need them anyway. Like, just just walk away, right? Or like, I think most of the time we want partners. We don't want to do this alone. We want friendship. So a lot of times it is listen and share your heart, share your truth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think everyone wants to hear your truth and how you really feel, even if you're afraid of that feeling.
Agreed.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode today. Feel free to share, comment, like, dislike.
No, don't dislike us. No, don't do that.
It's all good. It's all good no matter what. If you have any topics you'd love for us to talk about,
we'd love to hear from you.
We'd love to hear from you.
We love your comments, even if they're not nice. We love just hearing your feedback, and when you follow and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, don't forget to follow, subscribe,
the
share.
Breaking Chains podcast.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya. Peace.
Peace.